We are here in La Jolla at a Grunow Construction job site with another in our series, Building with Reclaimed Wood. Today we're going to document the installation of the reclaimed wood box beams, which we previously featured in a video explaining the box beam fabrication process at Vintage Timberworks. In this project, the box beams are being used to cover some structural exposed parallam beams. As the design in the project calls for a more frequent exposed beam pattern, the box beams will also be covering cleats, which have been added to the ceiling between the parallams. We are using reclaimed rough-sawn Douglas fir box beams, which were detail sanded and pre-finished on site with a lime wax process prior to installation. The first step in the installation process is to apply furring strips to the parallam beams, which will provide the backing for the attachment of the box beams. Remember to order the box beams with an inside width and height dimension larger than the beam you will be covering. That way you can always fur out the beam being covered to accept the box beam using the inside dimension of the box beam as a guide. Cleats have been added between the parallam beams to provide an attachment point for the additional intermediate beams. The width of each individual cleat is determined by the inside dimension of the box beam to which it is attached. In this case, the framing members or joist above the drywall are running perpendicular to the direction of the box beams and form the attachment points for the cleat. In a situation where the cleats are running parallel to the joist, blocks would need to be installed between the joist to provide backing for the cleats. Next, the box beam is prepared for installation. In this case, the edges and the ends are covered with a blue painter's tape to protect the finish. The temporary blocks, which were originally installed during the manufacturing process, are removed, cut to the proper height to allow for the depth of the beam that they are covering, and reinstalled for strength. If the inside height of the box beam is close to the height of the object being covered, like the parallam, the blocks would not need to be reinstalled. The length of each installation point is carefully measured wall to wall, and the box beam is cut on both ends to match the wall condition. This sometimes requires a scribe or template if the wall and the ceiling do not form a perfect 90-degree angle. Next, a grinder is used on the inside top edges of the box beam to ease the edge with a slight angle. This will make it easier to fit the beam over the parallam or the cleat when installing. The leading edges of the furring strips and the cleats are also eased to facilitate sliding the box beam over the furring strip. The beam is now raised into place in order to check the fit against the ceiling. Hand crank lifts come in very handy during this process. If the beam does not fit flat against the ceiling at all points, it will need to be scribed and fit so that it conforms to the ceiling contours. This is usually done with a combination of grinders and belt sanders, but in more extreme cases may require more aggressive tools such as a skill saw or a plane. Once the box beam edges are contoured, holes are drilled in the side of the box beam to attach it to the cleat or the parallam with screws. The beams in this case are being attached with 1/4 by 3-inch Simpson strong drive structural screws, which have a 1/2-inch diameter head. A 9/16 hole has been pre-drilled to allow the screw head to be countersunk about a 1/2 inch below the exterior surface of the beam. This will allow for a plug which matches the surface appearance to be inserted later to hide the hole. This project also required a box beam to conceal the structural ridge beam in a bedroom upstairs. Note that here we're dealing with the rake on a gable ceiling instead of the flat ceiling that we had downstairs. As the hand crank lifts were too bulky to get into this room, the beam was lifted into place by hand after preparing it for installation. The preparation for this beam was the same as that used in the flat ceiling application. Fortunately, the beam fit tight against the ceiling, avoiding having to scribe it and lower it back down for contouring. Once braced tightly into place, the box beam was drilled and attached to the structural ridge with screws. The holes were then plugged with a matching material and the job complete. Vintage Timberworks, providing fine, aged, reclaimed wood products since 1992. Please visit our website for more information.